Two, one, and we are live. Thank you, everybody who will be joining us, and thank you, everybody who's here. And that's Sports Card Collector, my guy Sam, Peter Pac-Man. How you doing, brother?
I can't complain, man. Can't complain. This has been long overdue. Been waiting for some time to jump back on and just talk, man. Have patience. I know we talk all the time through text messages and stuff, and always bouncing ideas and having conversations about different things. But I think it's also good for this community and space to see two black men, who are committed to their community, educators, fathers, husbands, engage in conversations like the hobby and talk about the hobby. So I think it's necessary to have.
Facts, facts. And before we start, I want to give a celebration shout out. I know there are many people on this planet today who are hurt and sad from the news, right? That Bill
Yeah,
Russell, the great legend, has passed. But me, from my perspective and my lens, you know what I mean, and the hero and legend that he will always be, man, that's 88 years of celebration that I'm going to be doing
yeah,
today. You know what I mean? That's
yeah,
88 years of history that I'm going to be diving deeper into because there's a lot of that what we're going to be talking about and discussing
yeah,
today and later on that Bill Russell was going through and fought for. That's still going on in the hobby and other markets and areas as well too, in the schools and
yeah,
various. But it was a lot worse back then,
yeah,
and due to people like Bill Russell paving the way in the ways he did, man, for those 88 years, every year, you know what I mean, standing
yeah,
on those 10 toes, man. I just want to give a shout out to Bill Russell. Rest in peace, his family, his friends, his loved ones. Man, he's a legend to us. I went to school in Oakland, California my whole life. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So Bill Russell is. I've heard stories about Bill Russell that probably a lot of people not in the Bay probably haven't heard. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
he's a legend in more ways than just basketball. So shout out to Bill Russell, the legend for real.
Definitely before his time, ultra intellectual, true gentleman, true activist who cared about the rights of black and brown people. And it's a weird juxtaposition when you think about his playing career for him to play in the most racist, probably one of the most racist cities, um, and to a certain like when you think about historically, like Massachusetts was the first state to ban slavery, yet pockets throughout that state they were pretty racist, and to know that here's a guy who was celebrated on a court by so many people, but couldn't live in certain communities with the same people who celebrated him on a nightly basis. You know what I mean? And it's just the fact that he had the courage to conduct himself like a gentleman and to model, what dignity look like, feel like, and sound like, and always keep his cool, man. Shout out to him. It's people like him, and then it's people like Jackie Robinson, just those central figures you think about, like how were they able to withstand that and to deal with that and not succumb to the pressure of like I need to defend my manhood, I need to defend my masculinity,
Right,
um, I need to defend my family, um,
right.
and the honor of my family, and to know that to withstand that and to rise above that and transcend to a different level, it's just magical, magical.
Yeah, 1 second, right? Nope, the color
Yeah,
doesn't matter at all, babe. That's 6 by 10, 4 by 6,
this is
six
what
by.
we do in the hobby. While
Yeah,
we
man, it's
doing
real
this,
life.
we
Six by
still got to
ten.
be fathers and husbands.
Y- Yeah, 6 by 9 is perfect. Yep, yep. Yeah, I need it bigger than the ones I had. I checked. I went and checked, and it's supposed 6 by 9, 6 by 10 work perfect. All right, get those 20. That'll do. All right. Thank you, babe. All right. Yeah. Thank you, man. Getting some
Yeah.
that
No
we had that
problem.
break. We had break that we were running, and the lady's out doing some grocery shopping and things, and she's picking up some bubble mailers so we can have these orders out ASAP, or these cards from the free break that we cover shipping and everything. You know what I mean? We're gonna have all
Oh
that
man,
stuff out
awesome job
Monday
with
morning.
that, man.
Yeah.
Awesome job with that. I had the opportunity to jump into the room, and we talked over text and FaceTime, but man, it was good to be a part of that experience. Took me back to the moment when me and Naka did a break with the '96 medal. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I was like, this is
Uh,
what the hobby
one
is
more
all
time. One
about.
more time. One more time. What's
Yeah,
up, babe? What you see? Ooh. Let me see. That's a 30 pack. Oh, clutch. See? Yeah, see. Yep. Get that one, babe. Yep. That's perfect. Thank you. Right. Yeah, man, real life. That's why I
yeah.
like. That's why I like. That's why because in about 10 minutes, the same thing gonna happen for you. You know what I'm saying? Kids gonna be
Oh
running through the
yeah,
background. You're gonna have to go upstairs and make some hot chocolate or some cold chocolate milk right now. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So I mean that's the beauty
yeah,
of it though. That's why I like the unscripted, natural. I hate it when my
yeah.
kids come in and they feel like they're bothering me. I hate to give them that
No,
like, nah, you're never bothering me. Nothing that I'm doing is ever more important than you know what I mean? Nah, come on in every
facts.
single time. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Families upstairs, everybody napping right now. They tired, but it's just a quiet moment. But any given moment, it can change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Any given moment, it could definitely change, yo.
Big
Um,
facts.
but yeah, just iconic figure. Um, so overrated as a basketball player, and you know, I, when I think about even besides him being an activist and a leader in the black community and during the civil rights era and sparking that level of like responsibility for athletes to be more than athletes, and you see that play out now. But when we have like these conversations about like back their basketball prowess, I feel like today in all these like the podcast world and all these different worlds where people have become gurus and experts about sports, they have like revisionist history to a certain extent. And like I'm not taking nothing away from Michael Jordan. I think he's one of the greatest basketball players ever. We were all enamored by Michael Jordan as kids growing up. We all wanted to be like
Facts.
Mike. That was all a part of that psychology. You know what I mean? Watching him on TV every day, um, watching his highlights, collecting his cards. But when
Facts.
you really research and break down history, I mean, in my opinion, 11 is better than six.
Yeah.
Um, you're talking about a guy who won 8 straight finals, went to 12 championships in a span of 13 years, and won 11 titles. I mean,
See me. I like to say goats rolling herds. You
yeah,
can't put one goat above the other because they all
yeah,
roll together. And I don't
yeah,
like crossing the airs because I feel
yeah,
like if Jordan was in that era when there was only like a handful of teams, I feel like he would
yeah.
have dominated too. And that's nothing
Oh,
against Bill
yeah,
Russell. He did
yeah,
exactly what he was supposed to,
yeah,
but he had to overcome a whole lot of stuff other than
yeah.
basketball that
Oh,
helped
exactly.
that made playing
Yeah,
basketball possible for people like Michael
yeah.
Jordan and before Michael Jordan. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So there's a whole lot of
facts.
things you got to give players of their era credit for and honor and respect for, right? And Bill Russell was like he's one of the aside from when the first five. Of course, we had our first five, our first black fives, right?
Yeah,
The first
yeah,
professional basketball players before the ABA and the NBA.
yeah,
But then right when that started, there we go. It's Bill Russell. That's not too far
yeah,
after that. That's
yeah.
like what? You know what I'm saying? 10,
Yeah, it's the
15, 20 years
50s.
after
Yeah,
that. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
it's not too far after that at
Um,
all.
beautiful career. You know what I mean? And it's just like he's one of those players that I think personally could play in any era of basketball. Uh, would
Facts.
he be as dominant? I think he'll still win championships. I don't think he'll win 11, but I think he would still win. Just
Facts.
his basketball ability, second to none. You know what I
Facts.
mean? So, um, uh,
And like he
yeah,
Yeah,
Just got to
like
honor that.
you got to, and like you were saying, he had a lot of fans for sure playing in that time. People who were cheering
Yeah,
him on, but that same exact time, there were people on the side of those fans or across from those fans calling him a baboon, calling him a
yeah,
coon, calling him the
yeah.
N word, and all types of
I
things. So,
mean,
and this
he
is
even
every
said,
day. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Well, he even said the same people that was cheering for him during the Celtics game, after the game, they'd be the same people who called him those names.
Yeah,
So, you know, it's that weird thing where I always think about, like, when we think about sports and we think about race and we think about all these things and how our culture as Black people lives throughout all these different industries and realms that we participate in, and people who struggle with this construct of race and being threatened by the color of our skins. But you are the same people who embrace our culture, who love our culture, but yet when it comes to day to day, you don't see our humanity. Um, you try to dehumanize our humanity, or justify your behaviors, or you're blinded by your own privilege to, like, not acknowledge our humanity, but yet you want to partake in the very culture that people who look like us created. And it's just weird, man. I struggle with that every day. um, Something I'm reading a lot about, reading this book called Grandmother's Hands, and it's about, like, understanding, like, racialized trauma, not only through the lens it's like Black people, but also, like, white people have their own racialized trauma,
facts, facts. We're
and
all
white
programmed in
supremacy.
the same. We're all
Yeah,
programmed under the same
um,
system, so we all have the
and
same trauma as it
yeah,
pertains
and
to our community, society, and
yeah,
upbringing. You know what I'm
and it was so
saying?
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was so weird for me to, like, what? And as I began to read this book, and it's by this, like, licensed therapist, his name is Resma, and he started to explain, like, how white supremacy really impacts us all as a people and as a society. And as I'm like reading this book, and in the 25 pages that I've read already in this book, it's really shaped my thinking, and in terms of understanding in totality what white supremacy is and what he calls, like, white body supremacy. That's the phrase he coined. And, even in a space like the hobby, as we continue to use, like, cards to connect with each other, there are a lot of people who in this space who are, like, the gatekeepers of this space. They still struggle with that concept of race. They still
Yeah.
struggle with
Yeah.
that concept of, like, you shouldn't be in here. You know what I mean? This is, like, our space. And a
Facts.
lot of people do it consciously, and a lot of people do it. A lot of people are complicit, and a lot of people are implicit, and they don't even recognize the ignorance that they're participating in. And it's interesting. It's very interesting, man. That's why I just continue to read and reflect and be informed about my own trauma, as a Black male, and especially, like, navigating this space, because we do it every day as educators. We are navigating a predominantly white institution, um, and it's interesting when you travel to other institutions, and you just have that lens and you see certain things, and you just try to keep people informed and try to have, like, honest conversations, and recognizing that, like, at the end of the day, everyone dignity matters, but we have to make sure that the most marginalized people, they have a space and a place so their dignity can be honored and it can be celebrated, and not just that imagery on a card, or not just you using our culture to get likes and followers, or to monetize our culture, and our imagery.
Yeah, and not even to beat around the bush. Let's just let's dive into it as it pertains to
Yeah,
the hobby specifically. I see it and I feel a lot of it as well too, as well as
yeah,
you and others. Shout out Zig, shout out Mike who just hopped in. Um, it's blatant. It's intentional, because if it wasn't intentional, the opposite would be intentional. You know what I mean? And the
Yeah.
opposite isn't intentional. It was crazy, bro. I've been taking screenshots at National. I've been trying to follow what's been going on, especially from like the top pages and stuff, and trying to
Hmm.
recognize how many African Americans, people of color, and things of that nature that I notice at the show, and definitely see more people, but definitely see more athletes getting the love and appreciation. You know what I mean, for being there specifically, and definitely seeing like black people wearing staff, like being staff members. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Shout out Prism God. Shout out Erica's. Sport. Love who you collect. For actually getting on platforms and being able to represent for themselves, for their families, for
Yo,
what they do, and for the hobby. You know what I mean?
yo,
What
bro.
so
When I
good.
saw those pictures, I was smiling ear to ear because
Yeah.
you talking about somebody that's like dedicated to the hobby, and that creates a sense of belonging, even among the like predominant people who navigate the hobby. Like Erica's dope, man, and I'm grateful that she had the opportunity to like tell her story, to be celebrated, and get her flowers and her recognition, because you're talking about a hobby purist right there.
So right, I'm just gonna go out and say it.
Yeah,
Like, to me, it's a slap in the face for me. To, like you
yeah,
said, we've given Erica her flowers. She's super intelligent, beautiful black woman, respectable, knows how to carry herself, can
mm,
teach. She's a mother. She has all
mm,
these qualities and all these skills that she's shown to so many different people. So many different people have acknowledged her too. But to not see her get the same opportunities that others get in this space,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah. No,
you even speaking on you too, speaking on so many,
yeah,
Naka, Prism God, even said, even with Prism God, to me
yeah,
being the person I look up to as somebody who, like I said, I wouldn't be here if I didn't see Prism God on
yeah,
Instagram. You know what I'm saying? Doing that, like, oh, it is okay to be black in this space and do
yeah,
this. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I feel like he doesn't get enough, bro. He should be at every single car show. Now, somebody's gonna do this after this, and it's the next step in the hobby, and that's why I'm happy we have this
yeah,
platform and this real estate and this time dated. I wish I had my board behind me, but the next step, it might not be the next step, but one of the next steps for these companies and businesses is diversity, whether it's for the right
mm,
reasons or it's to look good so they can blend in and get more money in, right?
yeah,
They're gonna have to go to Prism God. They're gonna have to go to these people who have the skill set, the knowledge, and the ability to deliver and bring in more people, teach, create content, educate, and also bring in money, right? But then they're gonna hire these people or bring these people on, bro, to make sure that our demographics are taken care of.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And
So,
like yeah, let's
no,
get into it. Let's get into it.
so,
Let's get
so
into it.
to your point, I'm just going to share some of my intellectual.
Real quick,
Yeah,
before you start, because I'm pretty sure he'll touch on this too.
yeah,
Mike Aldridge just said, as a Hispanic Chicano, white liberals thinking they speak for my culture is the most white supremacist thing I see these days.
yeah. That's
And then
facts.
also from one of our guys, Ziggy Sports Car. Ziggy's always a guy who's reached out, bro, probably for a year now. And I'm the same with everybody who comes in my DMs and they ask for interviews or stuff. I like, man, I need to fill you out first. I'm not interested. Let's see where we align first. And Ziggy was
Yeah,
real cool about it. Like, yeah, I understand. Cool. And then every few months kept in contact and it finally clicked. And Ziggy's always like, what can I do to help? I
yeah,
understand this is an issue. I didn't see it, firsthand, me being a human, because it's
yeah,
not something I engage with or it wasn't my
yeah,
community. But now that it's present and I see it, I don't want to be any part of the cause. I want to be, or any part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution. So
yeah,
that was his comment. But before you go on,
yeah,
Mike just spoke about the white liberals
yeah.
and the white supremacist
Well,
thing. Go ahead.
to Mike's point, in the book that I'm reading, there's this thing where like white culture is seen as the norm,
Right.
and anything other than that is like a deviation from the norm.
Like the national
Yeah,
is seemed like the norm.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that was the justification for slavery. That was the justification for like Christian white men to justify the dehumanization and the system that they created to enslave black people and people of color. You know what I mean? And that same ideology lives in our modern society today. That if it isn't white, it's not right. Anything other than that, it's a deviation from the norm. But we'll use your culture, we'll use your ideas, we'll use your intellectual property, we'll steal it because it's going to better society. And as a scholar and as a historian, you see that played out through history when it comes to peoples of color, intellectual property, and the things that they do to better society, to cultivate society and innovate society. Um, but to be in that space, to be yourself in that space, you're seen as a deviation from them simply because um, you're not white. You know what I mean? And Mike makes a great point. Um, you know, and then also to your point about like I think about this a lot, and I'm gonna share some of my intellectual property. If anybody want to use it, by all means. As an educator, I work in systems, right? I
Talk
have to
about
think about how to sustain practices, create systems that support students, supporting teachers, so that way they can deliver instruction. Um,
and these students and teachers are all different, right? Like,
yeah,
so
yeah,
yeah, okay, continue. Yep.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And as I think about like the hobby during my second hobby run in this space and like taking that natural elevation, like when during my first hobby run when I was a kid, I didn't look at the hobby through the lens of race. I just looked at it through the lens of like my surroundings and the people who collect it. And yeah, it changed when I got to Penn Treaty, but now I'm at a space where I like see it in its totality. And when we think about the major transactions that has happened over the past couple of years, throughout the pandemic and the aftermath of the pandemic, I'm thinking like people who are at the top to truly make this a space of belonging and to truly sustain what's happening right now in the hobby, they need to like think about people who work in other industries. They need to look at educators. They need to look at like business folks who are like thriving in this space or like participating in this space. And as an educator, if I was in a room with like a Scott Rubin, I would say, you know, right now you hold the keys to what the hobby can. You hold the keys to what the hobby can look like. You can determine what the hobby looks like for the next 50 years. And to know that you engage in our culture and participate in our culture, what are you doing to think about sustainability? What are you, and more importantly, sustainability in different markets, like little black and brown boys and girls getting involved in this space, shifting their focus and shifting their level of attention to what they consume every day.
Bruh.
Because
And
to a
it's
certain
easy
extent, when I
too.
was a kid, yeah, to a certain extent, when I was a kid, like the hobby saved my life in a little bit. Because like
Facts. I've seen it happen with kids. I
yeah,
work at a school. I've seen cards,
yeah,
Pokemon cards
yeah,
save kids' lives,
yeah,
literally mental health
yeah,
wise. Like
yeah,
for real, for real.
yeah. And then growing up in environments that are riddled with poverty, riddled with violence, intra community violence, which is also a causation of white supremacy. We can have that conversation another day. Like, how can we shift kids' focus and how can we incorporate another group into this market where they have access, they can acquire cards, they can learn,
But
like all the things you could do with
we
cards
know, we
literally
know, we know
from
we can do
from
that easily. I can do
yeah,
that. I can do that in a
yeah,
week. Two
yeah,
probably a
yeah,
week. Set up a program around cards,
yeah.
and it doesn't. Money don't even got to come out their pocket.
Like
Now we're talking. Now we're talking
literacy, yeah,
nonprofit stuff. Now
literacy,
we're
yeah,
talking donors and funders,
yeah,
and now we're talking stuff
yeah,
that's going towards financial literacy, right?
yeah.
That's going towards reading. That's going
And
towards
yes,
math, right?
yeah,
That's going towards
yeah,
STEM, right? That's
yeah,
going towards. And right now, especially, they don't want to hear it, but the hobby, man. see, they twist it around. You can make there's ways to make more, even more money off the black and brown people that are not on the cards.
Yeah.
There's ways to make, and it's legal, legit money,
Yeah.
and it's tax write off money.
I
Like
I
they're
I
purposely looking the other way,
yeah.
or they just don't know. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it's so simple, bro. Like there's no. I mean, we could say it for
Yeah.
days, but at the same time, we can give away the playbook. If they don't have the right
Right.
players on the team, they can't run the plays.
When
Because
when
I remember I've been in rooms like with Upper Deck and Panini and talked to them about in clubhouse rooms and some of their old people who've worked for them and tops, and talk about how come y'all never had anything in the community to give back and won't and any kind of initiatives. And they would bring up, oh no, we did. Well, how come it didn't stick? How come it didn't work? Oh, well, we no, y'all was the wrong people to be doing it. How come y'all didn't have somebody from the soil do it? Why are y'all picking people from
yeah.
y'all office to go into the community and teach kids about cars? That makes zero sense. That
Yeah.
doesn't add up. You would create a job for your cousin if he just finished college, or if he just and gave him a job under your company to do nothing, but you're not going to give somebody a job that's going to open up more jobs and bring in more money and more education. And 20 years later, these same kids you educate and going to come back into the hobby. You copy
Yeah.
and scale that and do that in every community, every school, or everybody who wants to do it. It's going to happen because if they don't, it's going to happen because that's what we do anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's going to happen. It's happening and it's
Yeah.
going to happen for sure.
No, and that's a great point. And those are the things that I often think about, like to truly create engagement in the hobby. What are we doing to meet people where they at? Like I
Yeah.
do that every day as an educator, right? When I welcome a new student into my building, how am I going to meet the student where they at, so they can feel like they belong, and they can feel like they have a voice, and they can feel like they can engage in this space we call a school, so they can thrive, explore their talents, make friends, you know what I mean, foster positive relationships. And that's how I see the hobby. The hobby is a space of unlimited potential. The thing is, do we truly want to tap into that unlimited potential? Um, and that's a question of like, that's a true question of like, I need to think about others besides myself.
Right.
I need to think about, like, instead of making how much money I can make, I need to think about like the long game, because ultimately you're gonna make the money because the money is there. And that that's how you sustain multiple markets in this place outside of someone going to a big box store or buying a box of cards, or going to a local hobby store and buying a box of cards. And that's true community work. That's true sustainability in the hobby. So places like the National don't seem so far fetched to less affluent people.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Right.
And it, I don't know. It's a question of like, do we truly want to be creative? And it's a question of like, do we truly want to make everyone feel welcome in a space that's supposed to be inclusive? And its inception and its nature.
It's
And
crazy you said that. It's crazy. I'm not gonna say, and one thing I don't want to do because I know how these people are. I'm not gonna say any names unless I'm gonna give them flowers. Other than that, I'm just gonna say who it is, or I might have a nickname for him. But
yeah,
this gentleman in the hobby who has a podcast reached out to me. I don't know. Some people who hear this later on might don't know who they're talking about because they might have got the same email, and it was an email or same message. It wasn't an email. It was a message over Instagram, and it was asking for, it was a list of like 200, 300, 400 cards, maybe sports cards in the last 150 years or something like that. And we were asking you to rank them, your top 10, top 20. I forgot what the top was, but it was asking you
yeah,
to rank your top cards. So I read the email. All right, I put on my hat and said, all right, let me go through and look for my top cards. And I'm just going to keep it 100 with you, bro. Out of those two, if there was 100 cards on the list, 96 of them were male. So for just for that, I said I'm not participating in this list. I'm not
mm,
participating on this survey, and I told him, and he understood. It wasn't, you know, what I'm saying, it wasn't anything mean about it. I just said, man, I don't feel comfortable participating on this list, and I told him why. I was like, there's not a lot of women, and the cards that I have that I would put on this list for me, you know what I mean? They're not on here. You know what I mean? So I would
mm-hmm,
like, if there was a list that had 50 men and 50 women, I'd be more inclined to, you know what I mean, learn about these women that I don't know about, and then also participate. And he appreciated my perspective as he always does. He tried to sell the point where there's still a couple women on there, and then hopefully there'll be more. And he said, and then he asked, "What can we do to for there to be more women on there?" And I'm not gonna lie, I thought that was the stupid question. You put more women on there, but that's what I told him. I said, "LOL, you just put more women on there." So
Yeah,
if you want to do it, you do it, bro. I got an off the checklist list. The next 5, 6 people I want on there are all women, bro. Like if you
yeah,
want to do it, you just do it. You don't care what it looks
yeah,
like. You don't care what it sounds like, and you deal with how it feels like
yeah,
later, and you accept it.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, that's a
Just do
great
it.
point.
You just do it.
And thinking about the Nationals, like to a certain extent, I'm happy I didn't go, and I had that on my like hobby New Year's resolution list, like wanting to go to the Nationals this year, and I'm glad I didn't go because I follow like women accounts and I saw that like they were all male signers, no female signers, and one group decided to have female signers at their table, which I thought was awesome because that like that's diversity,
Yeah,
that's
I think I saw
inclusivity.
Tops or Fanatics
Yeah,
with some female
um,
athletes out there for
that
sure.
that's belonging, and then even within like that space of like making the hobby more welcoming to women.
I love
Also
it.
within that space, we need to think about like how do we get more women of color involved in that space. Um, and a lot and some women I've listened to who like engage and participate in the hobby like really talked about that,
Right.
wanting to feel like recognized, wanting to feel like a contributor to this space beyond me being an athlete, and I think that that's the next step that needs to happen when it comes to um, inclusivity and belonging from the standpoint of women engaging and participating in this space. Um, like Michael Mack said, the most disrespected person on earth is the black woman. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And if you look at the history of women's rights in our country, there's a lot of times black women didn't have a seat at the table. Um, so I think we need to understand those intersections and make sure we have that common cause. What's that card you holding up?
So this is shout out Sydney Dick first and foremost at Giant Legends, woman's mark, her mark. This is one of the cards she used to have on her page that I loved and always asked her about, and then she actually sent it to me a few months ago. But this is a May Fags card from 1952. Now, in the
Mm-hmm.
1950s, during that time, 30s, 40s, 50s, there wasn't a lot of women's cards at all. And if they were women's cards, they were overseas, like Germany, Russia, and things
Mm-hmm.
like that, right? So I held this card up because A was right there and it went right along with what you were saying, man. It's May Fags, right? This is her
Mm-hmm.
getting ready to compete, and I believe one of the one a sprint. She was also on the relay team, but she was getting ready to sprint, right? And if you see, she's the only black woman on this specific photo, right? But
Mm-hmm.
like you were saying, I see the hobby now as women are entering and beginning to be accepted. And like you said, we need more black women. It's like a remake of this time, or this is happening again. There was a time where all women weren't allowed to play sports, so they weren't allowed
Yeah.
to do this. They were looked at different. They still weren't allowed to do the same things men were allowed to do. If they were participating in the sports, people would ignore it. Like they didn't get the same. They didn't get the same things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, like you said, the black woman is still left to the side. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? During all this, even though the women as a whole, yes, women as a whole were being ignored, they were not being valued. It's starting to happen, but we should learn from history and not and be intentional about including everybody as we're bringing everybody up at the same time. You know what I mean? We don't want to make the same mistakes, because then we have to
I
go
mean,
back and pull people up and relearn and re-educate ourselves. It's tough.
in the words of Sojourner Truth, she's like, "And I'm a woman too." You know what I mean? Like, you know, in the height of those women movements in the 1800s and the early 1900s, you know, black women wanted to sit at the table and they wanted to have those conversations and
Yeah.
push that agenda forward. But there was still that level of ignorance and that level of white supremacy and racism amongst that group. And during those times, they didn't see black women as human. You know, even though they were over sexualized and mistreated, and everybody had vanity towards them because they wanted their beauty, they wanted their skin color, you know, all those things. So uh, I just think that next step needs to happen as well. And there are some white women in the hobby who are making sure that
Facts.
even within their race, their ranks, they are being inclusive and they are making sure that women of color feel like they have a space in place. There are a lot of women who I saw even leading up to the Nationals were giving away tickets and made sure like some of the women they gave tickets to or like these giveaways were women of color and they had the opportunity to experience the Nationals. So that is happening too. I'm not saying that like it's not happening, but it does need to happen on a larger um, scale.
Larger scale, a large. I think it needs to be
Yeah,
so intentional, bro. And I feel like the
yeah,
women are doing exactly what needs to happen and will happen. Like they're carrying the torch. They don't need the men to do it for them. We just need to
yeah,
move out the way and be
yeah,
supportive and be in a partnership, just like any other relationship, right? And we
yeah,
do for each other like we need to do. But I really want to see a show that's literally, man, give me you can't get in unless you're a female. You got a female behind the
yeah,
table. You can't
yeah.
get in unless
No,
you
I
come in with
agree.
a female. You know, that
I
type of thing.
agree.
Not literally, like we're not gonna literally not let you in the door, but
Yeah.
there has to be. Let's. That's the same thing with people of color. Same. There has to be
No,
something
to
intentional to be like, wow, they. That's an invitation for us all, just to look in there and peek and make it warm and welcome. That that's usually what people do when they want somebody.
Mike said he brought a Cheryl Miller USC patch.
Uh huh.
I tell this to anybody. If you haven't watched the Lady of Troy documentary, please watch it. Um, like Cheryl Miller, man, you talking
Well,
about an unbelievable basketball player,
I hate to
and
give.
her career ended over a pickup game playing against men who she was destroying. Man, talk about a career cut short at the age of 22.
I want to say. I want to say. I forgot. I think my ex wife's mother played on that team with Cheryl Miller, like her freshman and sophomore year.
Cynthia Cooper was on that team.
Yeah, and my
Like
ex
that
wife.
team was
Yeah, I
the
know. Yeah,
uh
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
the the
Yeah.
the Greer the JaVale McGee's mom and aunt was on that team. The McGee sisters.
My kid's godmother was
Yeah,
on that team too. She like 6'6" still, and she like
yeah.
50 years old, 60 years
So,
old. Yeah, it's crazy.
but you know, I think if we decide like people in this space and community like really study history and apply the study of history to what we want the hobby to look like, sound like, and feel like over the next 150 years, we can do great things. And 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 there has to be a willingness to hold people accountable,
Right.
regardless of who you are in this space, whether you control a lot of the pie or whether you're a central figure. No, we won't stand for it. We'll create our own space if this is how you're going to be. Um, and that's the type of work that needs to be done. Um, you know, regardless, like if we're creating a lineup and we say, you know what, we got 10 panels and there's no on any panel there's no person of color or there's no woman of color, we need to change it. And we're not putting this product out there or we're not creating this opportunity unless we do our due diligence to find someone. And they don't even have to be a
But
higher up in this industry. They can be a regular person because their
it has to
story
be
and their
like,
experience
yeah.
matters.
It can't, like Mike
Yeah,
said, it can't be somebody else telling our story or trying to set it up for
yeah,
our success. It can't be
yeah,
somebody in their office or
yeah,
one of their cousins or aunties or nephews
yeah,
and nieces, trying to build that platform. It has to
yeah,
be one of us or
yeah,
somebody who can relate and learn on that level so then everybody else can learn
yeah,
from him or her. Like you said, it has to be
yeah,
intentional. And it is going to be. It's going to, because it's the next step, bro. Because they're going to be capped at making money. At the end of the day, it's about money. So even though for us it's about doing the right thing, for them it's
Mm-hmm.
about money. So when you
Yeah.
see these people do the right thing, it's not just going to be because it's the right thing. Otherwise, they would have did it a long time ago. All
Yeah.
right. So they're going to start doing the right thing because it's going to bring in money. The black dollar is huge. We spend
Yeah.
billions on Jordan shoes a year. So you just get a percentage of that into the hobby. It's boop. You know what I mean? And there's so many
Yeah.
different ways. Like you said, there's so many. You can look at the hobby. Look at write down the top 5, 6 markets or industries in the world. Write down how they make money. Their top 3, 4 ways how they make money, and then look at the hobby and how they make money. And see, the hobby isn't doing any of them things yet. Aren't doing any
Yeah.
of those things yet, right? So it has the hobby still has yet to be. Not to say all these things are going to be successful, but there's still a lot of implementation and a lot of innovation and a lot of just people copycatting what's over here and bringing it over here. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I look forward to us being there. I was having shout out JJ Venti, an artist. I don't want to call him a card artist. He does do card art, but he's an artist. Period. I know he's out in Dallas now. I don't know if he's from Dallas, but we've only talked via DMs and voice messages and stuff like that. But shout out him because I was talking to him last night and we were kind of talking about the same exact thing. Damn, I lost my train of thought. What was we just talking about again? Um, 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 Man, I wanted to give. It was about accountability and building our own. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Man, it'll come back to me. But shout out JJ
Yeah.
Venti. He humbled me last night on just that whole, just making sure you're moving with dignity and kindness, and the difference between
Mm-hmm.
being a lion and a lamb. You know, no one want to be a lion, no one want to be a lamb, and things like that. And I just
Yeah.
appreciate um,
Well,
you mentioned
two,
accountability, and he held me
two.
accountable. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He held me
Yeah.
accountable. He was like, "Man, no, you're in this role. You got to understand how you look and come across when you do this. And if you're okay
Yeah.
with it, cool. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I just appreciate somebody being
Yeah.
able to give you feedback, tell you something you
Yeah.
may not want to hear, but it's
Yeah.
like, dang, that's like a demon I low key fight. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Or that's
Yeah.
something I battle.
Yeah.
Okay, so you telling me to do? Okay, okay, I feel
Well,
that. Thank you. You know?
w- even to your point, and hobby aside, like dignity, the work of dignity lives in every facet of our life.
Yeah.
And to truly do the work of dignity, you have to make sure on a day-to-day basis you're honoring your own dignity and you're nurturing it. Because the more you nurture your own dignity, you're going to nurture and honor the dignity of others. um, and that's how we create that culture of belonging and inclusivity, that culture of understanding. um, that we create that space of having, what's up baby, my daughter just woke up. um,
Hey.
we we create that space of having those courageous conversations, and we have those conversations in a space where we can arrive to that space, like, even though I'm probably going to hear something I don't want to hear, this person is talking to me from a place of love, a place of care, and they see that I'm violating my own dignity or I'm violating the dignity of others. And we need to have that conversation because we need to see the God in each other, the spirituality in each other, and the humanness in each other. And when you do the work of dignity and you truly understand like what dignity is and the inherent value that we're all born with, because we're all born with dignity, where we fall short is we don't we fall short on like having the tools to nurture our dignity. And that's why we need to be mindful of like trauma. That's why we need to be mindful of the social constructs of this world and stop coming from a place of like, well, your liberation is going to impede on me and then vice versa, because that's not true. It's not
Facts.
true at all. um, and like I always say, being in this space now and in the hobby, it's really not about me. It's just about sharing the story, my hobby story, and the story of the people that I cross paths with on a day to day basis. That's why I always take time to enjoy others and not just constantly always posting content. I take weeks off. I take breaks
Yeah.
because I want to enjoy others and I want to learn from others.
Yeah.
And I want to have the opportunity to reflect and like, am I taking the time to think about others? Am I taking the time to really um, model what human capital is? And the other side of human capital is just having a willingness to like listen to others. And that's what
Right.
needs to happen in this space, you know, we call a hobby, especially with so much change that's about to take place over the next couple of years. Like, if I'm fanatic, I would literally go on a listening tour. Like, what can we do differently now that we're about to change the game?
Right.
What's the type of culture and tone that we can set to anyone who wants to be a part of our product lines that we're going to sell directly to? This is what we want and need from you. All right, this is, or before we even do that, how do we want to shape our industry or our building culture? Who do we have in here? Can we touch every market? Do we have other experts in the room from different industries who understand sustainability, and not from a monetary lens, but from like an engagement lens, to truly want people to feel engaged? Um, and what can we do from the educational standpoint? Like, how are we getting creators involved in here, creators of color, to design new cards, the STEM side, the technology side across the board? What's up, baby? Yes. When I'm done, we can do those. All right, hold on. Just be patient, okay? Thank you. But those are the things that I think about constantly, especially looking at what the next 2 to 3 years are going to look like in this space. And if those conversations aren't, if those conversations aren't being had now, I'm like, I don't know.
You know, I
I don't
believe
know.
they I want to say they're being had in some. What's up, baby girl?
Can you
What's
say
up,
hi to
niece?
Uncle Peter? She said hi.
I believe those conversations are being had. I don't know how much energy and I don't know how much action is are you know what I'm saying, are behind these conversations, or these conversations, but I do feel like they have or seen little things to be like, okay, there's a little bit of activation. I don't know if it's not
Yeah,
fully activated, but there's some
yeah,
people are trying certain things, but it's still, for me, it's never enough. You know what I mean? Because I
yeah.
know it can be done um, in different ways, but we're not expecting anybody to do that for us anymore. We're going to
Well,
continue to learn and educate and just do what we need
yeah.
to.
Even to your point, right? As educators, we work from the lens of equity, right? We think through an equity lens. And as a black man in America, like, we live this every day, right? Because we understand oppression, we understand the trauma of oppression, and not in its totality, because that's an ongoing thing, right? I'm still
Yeah.
learning to understand the trauma that racism and oppression has had on me through a lens of like white supremacy. But to consistently think through an equity lens, like, people in the industry who don't have to think through that lens because of their privilege and the things that were given to them and what
Right.
was afforded to them, you
Right.
also have to understand that there's no start date and there's no end date to equity. You
Right.
know what I mean? That work is ongoing, because you got to disrupt years and years of bad behavior, bad thinking. And you got to continue to do that work as it relates to dignity, as it relates to belonging, and to make sure, like, everyone has access to the space, and then not only have access to the space, but they can participate in the space and engage in the space. I
Right.
need that, buddy.
Right. So, man, it's great. I wanted to share a story when you said that, because I did something that's kind of out my norm, but not out my norm. But it's something that I have to force myself to do because I've been
Yeah,
programmed from my life not to do it. But I've done it in the educational field. Like at my schools, I've invited police onto my campus before with their dogs and things like that. And I've had a mixed, different kind of experiences. Right. I've had police on my campus that are afraid of the kids, totally timid, or shy, or really just not the type of people you want around people or kids. And then I've had
Yeah.
the exact opposite. I've had the greatest human beings in the
Hold on.
world there to learn and engage with the community. And my point in bringing them onto the campus, knowing that when I do it, first of all, a lot of the parents, I work in a 98% Hispanic community, and black, and the rest are black. If you're white or Asian, then you're most likely the minority in the school, and I'm looking after you more so than almost anybody else, because I have to protect you. You know what I mean? To make sure you
Hmm.
feel, it's about equity. So we have to
Yeah.
make sure everybody feels safe and feels, you know what I'm saying? Well, at the same time, making sure the majority
Hmm.
feels safe. But I would bring these police onto campus, and parents and students will look at me crazy at first and be like, "Why?" Or they ask, "Why would you do that?" You know how we feel. But I said it was important for me to bring the police on the campus because I need the police to see that you all are human beings, that we're human beings. I need to for you us to see that the cops are human beings. We all need the same anti-racist training. It's not just the
Hmm.
police that need it. We need it too. We've been
Yeah.
programmed the same exact way. So yesterday I was out with the kids. I've been wanting to do this skit for a long time. I finally got the footage with a police officer, but I didn't want to do it unless one of my kids were there because I wanted it to be a lesson in front of my kids and for myself and hopefully for the officer. So I finally found an officer who was not on duty. He was taking a break, and I asked him if he would help me. I told him, first of all, I'm an educator. I'm an
Hold on, brother.
educator. I'm a father, and I really want to raise my kids to be anti-racist. I don't want them to grow up the way I am right now and the way I'm trying to change and the way a lot of us are, right? And I think that in our community, pe- people like me, I'm afraid of cops sometimes, a lot of times. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
we
When
all
they
are.
come behind me, I shake no matter what. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I have best friends that are police, and I love them and at the same exact time. And you know what I mean? So I know they're human
Yeah.
beings. I know there are great police officers out there, but the system and the ruling class totality is just horrible. But anyway, I asked the cop if he would do this skit for me for the hobby. First and foremost, I broke down what we do for the hobby, but I said more importantly, I want my kids to see this interaction between us, and I want them to hear this conversation between us. I want my kids to hear that I'm uncomfortable having this conversation with you. I want my kids to see you make me feel comfortable and see this engagement. You know what I'm saying? I want that to
Hmm.
be so then that way they can we can learn together. So that was an experience that just happened yesterday that
Hmm.
I thought was cool. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, I wanted to share that one time.
Those experiences are necessary. Even the book that I'm reading called Grandmother's Hands, he also wrote the book for police officers too, um, especially white police officers, so they can understand how white body supremacy or their upbringing or their own implicit bias impacts them, especially when they are engaging and interacting with people of color. And these things are necessary. This type of work is necessary inside of our space, outside of our space, just across humanity um, in general. And if we truly take the time to unpack our trauma and truly see the pain that white supremacy has riddled this country, whether you created it, whether you engage in it, whether you believe in those behaviors, I think we can begin to peel back the layers and understand how we intersect as a people, more than hating someone because of their skin color.
Big facts. Big facts. I'm with
Yeah,
you there, brother. I'm with you
yeah,
there. Hey, Mike again said thank you guys for this mindful conversation. You both bring great value to the hobby. Mike, you bring the same value, bro. Without you in
yeah,
here, sharing, confirming, and feeling with us, bro, it wouldn't be possible. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And sports card collector and myself are gonna make sure we commit to bringing this platform and our experiences, our intellect, and just anything we can more consistently out here for sure, for sure.
yeah,
Hopefully on a weekly basis. You know what I mean? We'll get it going. School's about to start for us both, so I got to get my
yeah,
schedule together. But we're definitely this is something that has to be
yeah,
done. This is for the culture for real. There's a lot of
yeah,
shows out there
yeah,
that are valuable to the hobby for what they're valuable to the hobby for. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Whether it's card value, whether it's building relationships, whether it's collecting, whether it's investing. There's several platforms where you can learn, listen, and engage. But I feel
yeah.
like this isn't anywhere out there. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is definitely something I want to continue doing. I'm gonna have to get. and just to let people know, this is something that Sam and I have been wanting to do for probably close to 6, 7 months now.
Yeah,
And impromptu. We talk all the time. We talk every week, probably every other day, if not every day, in some shape, form, or fashion. But this is something that we wanted to share with everybody. We felt like we weren't doing our community any service by keeping these conversations over our text message and just when we talk on the phone. You know what I mean? It's not fair
yeah,
to our
yeah,
community to not share, and for the community not to be able to teach us and give us feedback and help
yeah,
hold us accountable at the same time,
yeah,
like you were saying. So we're asking that for our community, for anybody who's watching this, man, hold us accountable. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And at the same time, play your role. Play your role at the same time, and
yeah,
know when to step up, know when to step back. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And yeah, just
And the one thing that I would say, and I hate using this phrase because I don't consider myself like a content creator. I just think that term is weird, but it is what it is. I create hobby content
facts.
because I enjoy it, and it's a form of therapy. For me, it's very therapeutic for me. Uh, it, I'm writing a lot, I'm thinking a lot, and I enjoy it and I love it. And I would just say this to anyone who creates content in this space, especially um, white folks, white people who create content in this space. Under no circumstance can you say the N word. It's unacceptable. And I just want to be very clear about that because I don't like nobody to say that word, even people who look like me.
Yeah,
And
and be
and
transparent. He
yeah,
corrects me when I use it, y'all. Just to
yeah,
be
and
transparent, I want y'all to think it's
yeah,
just, oh, Pete gets a pass because Pete
yeah,
uses it in his community. When I'm
yeah,
on the phone with him and I slip up and
yeah,
say it, he's like, "Nah, Pete, I don't.
yeah,
That's not me. I love you, but
yeah,
that's not me." And I'm like,
yeah.
"Okay, true. Yep,
And we all got people of color. We all got to do our own work on that
yep.
word. And I think once we understand the self fulfilling prophecy with that word, and understand the history of that word is a word of terror. And for the thousands of human beings who lost their life during 100-year period of lynching in America, that was the word that was said to them in their last moments on this earth. And I just think it's unacceptable. Excuse me. I think it's unacceptable for anyone to say that word, whether you're pronouncing it with the GA or the ER.
Right.
And to any content folks out here who are engaging in this space and using Black culture to make your breaks look big and to share your content or your passion for the hobby, that word shouldn't be a part
It shouldn't. It
of your
shouldn't.
vernacular.
And I put it. and I'll
Um,
take it to a further extent. It shouldn't even be a
yeah,
part of y'all music. Like,
yeah,
because you don't have to do it no more. I get it. It's
yeah,
cool. It's what
yeah,
everybody else does. It sounds cool when somebody said, but the N word and the B word and the F word doesn't make no sense with your
yeah,
cards. It doesn't.
yeah,
I'm sorry. There's no way to make it sound cool. It just doesn't make sense. And you can go use any other type of music. You don't even have to use hobby music. But I don't
yeah,
want to. I honestly don't appreciate hearing it either, because to me it's just more appropriation. You know what I mean? You're
yeah,
gonna use it on. You're gonna use us on the card. You're going to use the N words and the music and all this, and totally promote and use stuff that's not even what we do on a day-to-day basis. You know what I mean? Um, it's crazy, bro. It's crazy.
yeah,
Shout out Knock. I
yeah.
just seen Knock come in the room, man.
That's what's
What?
up.
We got the
Knock
goat
my
Knock
boy.
in here,
Yeah,
man. What?
yeah.
We got
So
the goat in this G thing, man.
yeah, I just wanted a P. I just wanted to share that thought because we had a conversation about this a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not going to put nobody out there because I don't participate in that type of toxicity. And even to the point when we were talking about like women in a hobby, like I don't believe in toxic masculinity or like the toxic
Right, right.
patriarchal like mindset. Um, and to anyone who has that type of mindset, like stay clear away from me because I'm just gonna tell you, I'm just gonna call it how I see it and tell
So
it like
so so
it is.
because
So
because I don't want
yeah,
this because I don't want this to be what I don't want this show to be, or this
yeah,
platform to be, is something where we leave sometimes we're going to leave a mystery, right? Because we won't be able to
Yeah,
finish something, a thought. But while I don't want to name and give praise or any attention to ignorance, I do want
yeah,
to state the elephant in the room one
yeah,
way, and hopefully people catch the way I catch it, because I'm not going to
yeah,
drop names unless you catch it, right? Because
yeah,
people need to know, because it's for their safety, and they need to be able to know what they're dealing with, who they're dealing with, so they can make that decision on their own if they want to move forward. So listen carefully before we get out of here. Please bear with me, people. I'll try and make it 2 or 3 minutes, because the N word is being used around the community, right? And we don't want to bring power to the people who are using the N word, because their water's already being cut off just by naturally by them doing these type of activities and behaviors, right? But back in August, June, July, back in June, July of 2020, there was this account called Clout Chasers. And that's literally what their account was. It was called Clout Chasers, and I guess they would try and get celebrities to break cards or to do something about cards, right? We made a song. We started making songs and music back in June, July, August 2020. We made a song called Rip and Wax. So then they changed their name from Clout Chasers to that. Okay. November 2020, I get a DM from somebody saying, "Hey, this guy is using the N word. The same guy who changed his name from Clout Chasers to that is using the N word." And at the time when I had it, I'm like, bro, I'm like, man, I don't like to attack a human being and go back and I don't wrestle with pigs. I'm not. I don't go into the circus with clowns. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to engage in this person who's using the N word. I told dude, man, thank you for standing up, telling me it's not right. You did the right thing, but I'm going to ignore the ignorance at this time. You know what I'm saying? Then this same individual, Klaus chasing individual, I actually brought people into his room. He's a breaker. We have this amazing organization called Fast Functional Feet, who does soccer skills training and athletic agility training and things like that to youth out here in the Bay Area. And we've been doing community work with them, where they do toy drives, backpack drives, and they also give kids free lessons and free camps and stuff like that, right? So we actually put these guys onto this breaker's room. So they were breaking with them, and this breaker promised that he was going to send these guys some hoodies for some kids for a Christmas drive, for a toy drive, or that we were having. He linked the breaker back up with me. Breaker never sent anything. Now, when you bail out on my kids and in community work, that's when you get xed off of me. Period. Like, ain't even nothing personal. You don't hurt my feelings. It's just like, oh, you catted on the community, bro. It's just like, you know what I mean? Like, you weren't in my life to begin with. It's not gonna hurt them anyway. But I'm not rocking with you. I saw him at Nationals last year. He tried to shake my hand and ask for a picture. I told him no. Him and whoever he was standing by looked real standoffish about it. But I told him no. I'm not going to shake a hand and take a picture with somebody who did that to the community. Fast forward to a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I'm sitting here with PMC with Joe, pull my card. Naka hits me. Naka hits me, and it's crazy. He hits me, and I pick up the phone and I say, "My N word." That's exactly what I say, because in our communities we do that. I'm trying to work on it, right? But I say it, and Knock starts laughing like, "Oh, Pete, it's crazy you said that," because I was actually talking to my partner about the N word, right? And letting her know how, man, and our culture, how we use the N word, and this, and explain to her, because this same breaker name came up and the N word came up, right? So I said, "Huh, that's weird, Knock, because back in 2020, somebody told me this same breaker was using the N word." And I hope people don't think I'm speaking in code, because if you just rewind, I've already said the name. I'm not gonna say it again. I'm not, right. So this breaker was speaking in code, was using the N word. So Joe was sitting right here. I'm going through my phone trying to find the old message, and I remembered that you can search words. So I searched N word. Message pops up. Not only does the message pop up, a video pops up. This guy, not only I over the last 2 years, a year and a half, I didn't know, or maybe I looked past it. I didn't know there was a video. The minute I saw the video, I felt the same way we felt when we said we have to put this everything out there. Like, I can't keep this information to myself. Before, it was he say, she say. Somebody sent me a DM. Everybody says the N word if it's he say, she say. I'm pretty sure people are saying it behind closed doors at some of the same people that support us. Cool, dandy, whatever. This guy has the courage to say it and send it to several people. He's using it. He's using it like it's okay. You know what I mean? He's using it like it's good, like it's playtime, like it's cool. Like, if he comes to where I'm from and uses it, Yeah, bro. I might have a conversation with you and walk away, but those 30 people outside, bro, I guarantee you, you won't make it to your car, and that's not me. So you got to watch your repercussions and stuff to watch the stuff you do and say. Luckily, you and I, Sam's approach when I approached Sam was, "Hey, Pete, we have to have a conversation. Just come like this. Hey, Pete, we have to have a conversation with this guy. We have to educate him and see if he knows what he's doing and see if we can get him to understand what he's doing is wrong." And I'm like, "What? What? No, no, bro. Conversation. What? Humility, dignity. What you talking about? He already." But that's this so people know. You know what I mean? So Sam tried to reach out and have these dignified conversations. There are other non-black people that tried to reach out and have these conversations with this same gentleman. He totally blew it off. He totally felt like the N-word was something he can use, wants to use, and it's validated. You know what I mean? Since then, he's been on a rampage talking about he's not breaking Panini products no more, only tops. Well, bro, Panini's going to be tops pretty soon by at least 2026, 2025. So you're not saying anything people don't know. And I believe you just get your wire cut off. I actually believe Panini made the right decision. They got wind of you using the N word, and they finally said you got to go. Because I've been in Panini's DMs telling them, why y'all play music with the N word? I've told Panini that already. So I'm not gonna say I did anything, but I'm pretty sure Panini made one smart move before they waited for and said, "We done with this guy." This guy didn't make the decision and say he's done with Panini. You're nobody, bro. All right, okay. You listened to our song and changed your name from Cloud Chasers to that. Yeah, you're using the N word. You want to be this. Ain't nobody trying to be you, bro. Nobody. So if you want to try and be this, respect it, appreciate it, honor it. There was another time where he was talking mess about LeVar Ball on his page, and I went and I approached him about it because the next post he was trying to sell a LaMelo Ball card or a LaMelo Ball break. I'm like, bro, so if you're talking about LeVar Ball, you're talking about me and everybody else behind my back, and it's proof because we got video of him using the N-word. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's certain stuff you're not going to talk about LeVar Ball. You're not going to talk about a man because to me, when you talk about LeVar, you talk about his wife too. I love LeVar. I love the Balls, bro. The way they raise and love their family, that's what you want in America, in society, in life. It's parents who care for their children. So for anybody
Facts.
to take that into out narrative to anything else, man, check yourself and go love your kids a little bit more because they missing some love. They're missing some
Facts.
love. They're missing
Facts.
some.
I appreciate your raw response because initially that's how I felt. But I had to check myself,
Yeah.
and because I understand that if we respond, if we verbally respond the way we want to physically act, we're going to be judged different.
Facts.
Um, but it's also good to talk about it authentically and courageously because that word is traumatic, especially when you understand the history of it. And no human being should say it, especially a white person.
Yep.
It's unacceptable. And we just can't tolerate it in the space, especially when 97%, and I don't know the percentage, but I can infer that 97% of the product of cards are people of color. The imagery, people on cards are people of color.
Yep, and I'm gonna say this right now, and I'm not condoning this at all. I just want to
Yeah.
just in the Bay Area, California. There's this city called Marin County, and there's this little hood, little community called the Jungle, right over there in that area. And there's these two white guys, the Hoff twins, and in their community, and I'm like I said, don't try it in yours because you might get knocked out. In their community, they use the N word like they're like you can't. They were in that community from zero to the time they're now. I'm not
Okay.
condoning people. I'm not saying because you're it you can use the N word.
No.
But in certain communities, you may see some white people, you may see some people non-black using that word because they were literally raised in that community, and literally they got a pass from that community. And they'll tell you if I use it somewhere else, I might get hurt. But right here in my home, I'm okay. You right? But outside is something different. But they don't use it because they're trying to be cool. They don't use it because it's because we programmed them to use it. It's because they grew up in the same programming that we grew up in and had the same miseducation, as I'm going to call it. You know what I'm saying? The
Yeah,
same miseducation that it's okay, that we can turn the word around, but we can't unless we're fully
yeah,
educated and we fully dismantled everything and it's been
yeah.
out there. And that hasn't happened yet. So
No,
I fully agree with
I
you.
tell this. I tell this to anyone. The N word is
Yeah.
not of a term. It's not a term of endearment. It will never be a term of endearment because
Yeah.
the 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 foundation of that word is dehumanizing, demeaning, and belittling. And
Yeah.
you can't, you can't change that history. You can't. You can't because that history is tied to years of segregation. That history is tied to years of lynching. Um, that word is tied to years of second class citizenship, and that word is tied to modern police brutality and what we see today.
Yeah.
And I say that because it's yes, that's true. So um, we
So
got to continue to hold each other accountable. We got to continue to have honest conversations, and we got to continue to push this space forward that we all engage in and participate in, so it can thrive. Because the little girl that you see sitting on my lap, she loves cards. And the day that I bought my first women's card with Serena Williams on it, and I brought it home, her eyes lit up because she saw someone on a card that looked like her. Um, and representation matters
it
in this
does.
space, and we have to make sure it's a true space of belonging. And if anyone isn't supporting that, we got to hold them accountable,
Yeah.
and we got to get in that accountability. We got to give them the tools to better themselves. Now, at the end of the day, it's up to them to use those tools to better themselves. And if they don't want to better themselves, we need to say we will no longer associate you in this space. You still have the opportunity to redeem yourself, but right now, I'm not doing any business with you.
Facts. Yeah, and I love that you said that, and I like to just make another example. We're gonna get ready to wrap this up in a minute. My lady about to be coming home with some groceries, so I got to be out there before they hit the corner. But we're real intentional on our music too. There's probably one song out of the 100 songs that we have between all the platforms where the N word is used. You know what I'm saying? I haven't used an N word or any cuss word, period. But back in the day when we were just rapping, it slipped out. You know what I'm saying? A couple times. But on all of our iTunes songs, there's not one N word, not one cuss word. It's intentional. Like, you know what I mean? I want my niece to be able to listen to our music. I want to be able to play my music in schools. I want people to be able to play it with cards with our music, so there's nothing to hide. Panini and some people at National tried to tell me. I ain't even gonna call the guy out name at National because he's also shown some fake love too. But they told me our music had too much cussing in it. That's how I knew they was fake as hell. Excuse my language. That's how I knew they was. That's how I knew they was fake. They told me our music had too much cussing. I said where? And they couldn't find one song. I'm like, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. So yeah, we gonna keep on pushing that positivity, pushing P like I got a diaper on. You know what I mean? One thing I want to do too when we get back on here too, bro, is like show some cards. Next time
Oh
we get
yeah,
back on here, I'm gonna be able to I'm gonna have my other screen here, so I'll be able to share my
yeah,
screen and we can search for wax together, look at comps, look at
yeah,
old cards. I
yeah.
want to bring that vibe, that
Oh,
visual vibe
so
for people too,
so
so
I
we can
I
start.
I have
Yeah,
acquired
yeah,
I
real
have
culture.
acquired
Real culture.
some great
Hey, Tim
cards.
Hardaway. This is the killer crossover culture. You feel
Yeah,
me? That Tim Hardaway thing.
yeah. I've
Yeah, killer
acquired some
crossover.
great.
Yeah, we created
I've
that too.
acquired. Yeah. Oh, you
Yeah,
definitely did.
yeah.
I got my Oakland's Legends card with Jason Kidd and then Gary Payton on there.
Hey,
um,
I used to PC Gary Payton. That was one of my PCs.
um, but I've acquired some great cards over the past couple of months, and yeah, I would love to show them off to the community. Again, at the end of the day, don't follow me, but follow the hobby experience
Yep,
because
yep.
the hobby experience is a journey, and it's just a way to reflect and think about. how cards can change our lives and save our lives and inform us about a lot of things beyond us being caught up in the nostalgia of these pieces of cardboard.
Facts.
So
I
I
like what
just
you said there.
appreciate, yeah, I appreciate everybody listening. I appreciate everybody who supports us and sees us because um, it's important.
Yeah, man. Like you said, don't follow us. Follow your heart. Don't subscribe
Yeah,
to us. Subscribe to your. We gonna be here. If you want to check it and
yeah,
watch it, watch it. You don't gotta follow. You don't gotta subscribe. None of that. Oh, there go that call too. The groceries is here. Hey, love y'all.
yeah.
Don't get out of here. Hold on, let me make sure. What's up, babe? Out here. All right, I'm about to come out. Bye. Perfect timing. I knew it. I'm good. She didn't even text me and tell me she was on the way. All right, y'all. Hey, till the next time, we're gonna run this back probably, man, 7 days or less for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
We'll tap in with y'all. Appreciate y'all. Peace.
Peace.